You're listening to episode 736 of the Father Bills podcast. Welcome back. Well, last week I did skip the homily podcast, and that is due to the coronavirus. I just was so overwhelmed by what was going on. We did record the Mass, in fact, not just the homily, but the whole Mass on video. And you can go to our Facebook page and also YouTube and look up St. Anne Catholic Church Grants Pass, and you should be able to find it there. But this week's homily, I did record, although we also have it on video in the same places. Here is the audio recording of just the homily itself, entitled, Be People of Light, given on the fourth Sunday in Lent, 2020. My dear friends, we hear a story about Jesus encountering a blind man. And he encountered him in one of these places that I so dearly wanted to go to when we were going to be going to the Holy Land. In fact, I personally added it to our trip, and that's the Pool of Siloam. It's interesting because this man who was blind was made able to see. And those who said they could see were actually blinded. If you start then going forward in time, the Pool of Siloam itself becomes invisible. I mean literally, it gets covered. And it was in 2002 that some irrigation work was being done, and they were uncovering some dirt, and they started noticing some steps. And they brought in some experts, and they verified that this is the Pool of Siloam. Now there's many places in Israel that are like, well, this is like it, or this is maybe where it's about. No, they are firm. This is one of those areas that they're very clear about. And it's interesting because only half of it has been excavated. The other part is, with the Orthodox, they haven't allowed it to be excavated. So you see the steps going down. This is a very large space. And I was just imagining when going there that Jesus stood on these steps. That somewhere at some time, Jesus encountered this man and healed him and thwarted the Pharisees. This is a big deal. For me, I was hoping to see all this, but it was for naught. So I'm not able to see it other than in my mind's eye. We had to cancel our pilgrimage because of the coronavirus and the other issues of travel. And I don't want to put any of our pilgrims in any kind of harm. And after we did cancel it, boy was I glad, because every single day there was a really good reason to cancel the trip. We now live under the auspices of a very serious outbreak. We have with us a pandemic. And now here in Oregon, in our own county, Josephine County, we now have one confirmed case of the coronavirus, which is very, very lethal for those who are elderly, and it's very virulent in general. I ask myself and say, how can we then help? Because in this time, fear blinds us. I was at the grocery store yesterday, and I was looking through the aisles at Fred Meyer, and the entire line of bread was gone. I've never seen that. Other areas were all gone. It wasn't gone? Frozen chicken strips. So I got some frozen chicken strips. But I couldn't eat them yesterday. It was Friday. I can buy them though, right? But that instilled some fear in me. I was looking around at a world that I was not familiar with. Have you ever been to the grocery store where it's been almost completely emptied? And yet we have the ability to fill those. It's just that people are fearful. And people ask me lots. I don't know why they do that. It's because they're blinded by fear. And that blindness then causes them to act in fear, taking what they can. See, as Christians, we're called not to do this. We're called actually to help others. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't do our own shopping. And honestly, I felt guilty even shopping every time I've gone shopping in the last 3 weeks. And it's not to say that we shouldn't be having, some food in our refrigerators. Typically, mine's almost empty and the cupboards are almost bare. And so I got about a week's or so, at least, of food. And so I trust that we have a pretty good system here in our country where we will have the bread refilled and the other items refilled, and even toilet paper. But there are some things that I think we can be really aware about, and that is the need for masks. We had a box of N95 masks that we got here in Southern Oregon. We often will have fires, at least of recent in my time here. Last 10 years, sometimes the smoke gets so thick, it's hard to really breathe, and you don't want to breathe that in. And so one of the pediatric clinics asked us if we had any, and we did. So we gave them the box. It was about 30 of them. I was talking to my sister. She's texting with my sisters. One of them's a nurse, and they're starting to run out of masks, and people are now being asked to gather together to sew together masks or other protective gear for people. See, our eyes are coming open to what's really going on. It's not a conspiracy. It's not a government overthrow. In fact, somebody said to me, they think that this is all staged. I'm like, I think the lack of ability for our countries to actually get along demonstrates we could never coordinate such a thing together. There's no way. It doesn't make sense. So, regardless of all the whys, the question is, what are we going to do today? As Christians, we're called to be people of the light. We heard that. Not of the darkness. Remember, Christ is the light. And he wants to enlighten our hearts. Not to live in fear. I've heard it, I've not counted it, but someone said, it says in the Bible 365 times, do not fear. Well, I know that Jesus said it a lot. John Paul II constantly said it, do not fear. Have no fear. Fear is not of God. We're to be people of the light, generous and kind and helpful. I must tell you, in the last 48 hours, I've been so impressed with our parishes and our churches. The Catholic churches here and the evangelical churches, the mainline churches, they're all stepping up, like they always have in the past, to help people. We have people that have asked, hey, does anybody need someone to go grocery shopping for them? Does anybody need any help in any other way? We are going to, and many churches are doing the same, putting together a phone tree to make sure everybody is called and at least has a welfare check. How you doing? Can we pray with you? I've done that. I went and called all the school staffs as best I could. And it was, what a wonderful experience. And I've watched our teachers move to more online learning and teaching. And I like watching it. I'm not even in school. One of our teachers was reading a book, Why the Woman Swallowed the Fly, and it was awesome. You got to watch it. It's on our Facebook page. It's on the school Facebook page. I'm 53 years old. Why would I listen to that book, right? But I was so full of joy just listening to it. Other kids with their parents are listening to these. The gospel then today is reminding us that Jesus can heal us. So the question is, where is the darkness in each of our lives? Where are we harboring fear? It's an evil thing, and it can dominate our lives. But have no fear. Christ has conquered sin and death. All we need to do is ask for forgiveness. I've heard people say, well, my sin's too great. I can't imagine God would forgive me. Well, that's our side of things. I can't forgive myself. It's so bad. It's so horrible. know this, there's no sin that you could confess if you're confessing it with full heart and conscience and mind that God would not forgive. So while we're in the Lenten season, this is the time. While we don't have our reconciliation services, that should not stop anybody from confessing their sins to God. Some parishes may be offering a reconciliation. I encourage you, if you can, to go, but be mindful. They may have some regulations. We do here. We can only have no more than 10 people in the building. And so we're going to actually have somebody outside making sure that everybody's in their cars, and then letting somebody in when it's their turn. Kind of like at a restaurant, right? When you get a line, get your name down, dinner for 3, it's confession for 1, that kind of thing. My prayer for all of you is that you be wise, that you see clearly, that I too would see clearly what's going on and the needs around us. The narcissism that fear can create can blind us from the needs of others around us. So when we receive the Eucharist, bring before the Lord whatever that is that causes you fear and exchange it for Him. Give Him your fear and He will give you hope. Be open. Be people of light. Our world needs people of light now more than ever. And the Christian Church and our Catholic tradition is poised to do just that. Will you be part of the solution? Will you be one who will be willing to bring light and encourage light to another? I pray you will. May God bless you.
Thank you again for listening to this episode of the Father Bill's podcast. And so many of us, well, everyone around the world is affected by the COVID-19 virus. And in the Archdiocese of Portland, all of our public masses have been canceled, which is, what do I say? I would have never expected such a thing. That's unheard of. But so is this COVID-19 coronavirus. So this is new to everyone. And so we had to go into kind of emergency mode and do a whole bunch of other things, and the podcast was not one of those things. So I'm really focusing my attention now on a video production in our church. So you can go and watch our Mass in fullness in our chapel. We've actually converted it to a recording studio with video and audio, and that always will be on YouTube. But every day we're also putting out a streamed Mass at 8 a.m. on Pacific time. And I will continue to now going forward, if we find some normalcy, because it keeps changing, some normalcy, and take the audio of just the homily like I did today and put it on the podcast. If you have any questions or comments, you can go to also the Facebook page of our church, and on the noon hour of every day, except for Saturday, either myself or Father Argy, my parochial vicar, will be there for a question and answer period. So again, look up St. Anne Catholic Church Grants Pass, and you'll find it there, and we'd be happy to answer your questions. You can, of course, always go to my website, fatherbill.org, and send me an email, or go to my personal Facebook page, Father William Holtzinger, and post a message there or a comment, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. In the meantime, may God bless you, may you stay safe, and see you back next week. Bye-bye.